Few athletes in sports history have embodied resilience, dominance, and passion quite like Rafael Nadal. For nearly 2 decades, the Spanish superstar defined excellence in tennis, building a career packed with unforgettable victories, emotional battles, and historic milestones. But even legends eventually face the harsh reality of time and injuries. For Nadal, one particular moment quietly signaled that his extraordinary journey was beginning to slow down, and fans around the world could feel the weight of it. The match that felt different in early 2023, Nadal arrived at the Australian Open as the defending champion and the tournament's top seed. Expectations were high, as they often are whenever the 22-time Grand Slam champion steps on court. However, the opening round clash against American player Mackenzie McDonald turned into something few expected. Instead of the usual Nadal comeback magic, the match unfolded in a painful way for the Spaniard. Struggling with a hip injury, Nadal was clearly uncomfortable as the contest progressed. McDonald capitalized, delivering one of the best performances of his career to secure a 6-4, 6-4, 7-5 victory. For many watching, it felt surreal. Seeing Nadal, a player synonymous with relentless physical strength, limited by injury, was difficult to witness. That McDonald later admitted the moment was bittersweet. For me, that was a big match, the biggest match of my career, beating Rafa at a slam. I was playing some of the best tennis I've ever played that day, and getting that win was special, he said, but I knew he was hurting in the third set. It was a victory McDonald would never forget, but also a moment that symbolized a turning point for Nadal's career, a heartbreaking visual for fans during the match. Cameras captured Nadal grimacing and clutching his hip, a sight that left fans stunned. Known for his legendary endurance and ability to push through pain, Nadal looked unusually vulnerable. For longtime supporters, it was difficult to watch. The man who had built his reputation on outlasting opponents in brutal 5-set battles was suddenly struggling just to move freely across the court. That loss marked the beginning of a long absence from the tour. The injury ultimately sidelined Nadal for most of the 2023 season, forcing him to miss numerous tournaments and raising questions about how much longer the tennis icon could continue competing at the highest level. That a career that redefined greatness despite the painful chapter in Melbourne, Nadal's career remains one of the most decorated in tennis history. Across his incredible journey, he collected 92 ATP titles and dominated the sport's biggest stages, winning 22 Grand Slam trophies, including a record-breaking run at the French Open, where he became virtually unbeatable on clay. His rivalries with legends like Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic shaped one of the greatest eras the sport has ever seen. Together, they pushed each other to unimaginable heights and captivated millions of fans around the world. When the body starts to say no, every elite athlete eventually faces the same battle. The body that once felt invincible slowly begins to resist. For Nadal, injuries have been part of his story for years. Knees, foot issues, wrist problems, and now the hip. Each setback required enormous effort to overcome. But the 2023 Australian Open loss felt different. It wasn't just a defeat, it felt like a glimpse of the inevitable. Fans, commentators, and even opponents could sense it. The warrior who had spent his entire career fighting through pain was now facing an opponent he couldn't outwork. Time. Legacy beyond the scoreboard. Even if that moment marked the beginning of the end, Nadal's legacy is already carved into tennis history. His relentless spirit, humility, and sportsmanship made him one of the most beloved athletes the sport has ever seen. From the clay courts of Paris to the biggest stadiums around the world, Nadal built a career that inspired generations of players and fans alike. And while that difficult day in Melbourne may have signaled the downhill phase of his journey, it doesn't define the story. Instead, it reminds everyone just how extraordinary his peak truly was. Because when a legend finally begins to fade, it only highlights how bright they once shone. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.